Good day to you. This is Mr. Mlenga, your teacher of geography. So today I want us to focus on map reading. So without wasting much of the time, we're using the 2024 Geography Paper 1 past paper. So without wasting much of the time, I would like us to go to Section A, Map Work and Basic Techniques. So question 1 to 12 are based on the 1 to 50,000 map extract of Kildonan, Zimbabwe. Question 1 says, what is the 6-figure grid reference of the deep tank in the left top corner of the map? Now, what is important is, first of all, you need to understand to say a map has a key, which is like the dictionary of the map. So this is the key. It is very important that you understand what these features on the map represent, because on the map you find that you might not be given the names of these features. So make sure that you look at what the key is saying based on the features that have been given. And also you should be able to understand the fact that just below the map you have a scale, and this is the scale that we use when we are measuring a distance. Aside from that, it is also very important when you're doing map work to make sure that you understand that we have these numbers that are increasing as you go towards the east. We call them eastings. And then we have these numbers that are increasing towards the north. We call them northings. So why do we call them northings? We call them northings because they increase towards the north. Why do we call them eastings? We call them eastings because they increase towards the east. So that is very important. So question one is saying, what is the 6-figure grid reference of the deep tank in the left top corner of the map? So what is key here now is for you to know how a deep tank is looking like. So according to our key, the deep tank is looking something like this. So this is how a deep tank should look like. So if you look at this, since we have identified this to be a deep tank, you go back to the map. So on the map, the question is saying top left corner. The question is saying the deep tank in the top left corner of the map. So this is our left and this is our right. So in the top left corner, you expect to find the deep tank here. So if you can be able to see, in the top left corner, you have a deep tank here. So this is where the deep tank is, according to the question. So in which grid is this deep tank? So what is key is for you, first of all, to take note of the easting on which the deep tank is. You take note of the easting on which the deep tank is. You also take note of the northing on which the deep tank is. So here, we are going to say, first of all, you take note of the easting. So the easting here, according to our map, is 35. So that is our easting. Then you also take note of the northing, that is 75. So the deep tank is in this particular grid. So this is the grid in which the deep tank is. This is the grid in which the deep tank is. So this grid, according to our map, the easting is 35. So you write your easting as 35. You leave space for the specific easting, then you write the northing. According to map evidence, the northing is 75 for this particular grid. So you write 75, then you leave space for the specific northing. Then after that, you now divide this into 10 equal parts. So what you do is, you're going to say you divide it into 10 equal parts. So each grid always going to find it to be 2 centimeters. It is 2 centimeters. So you're going to divide this into 10 equal parts. So if you look at this ruler, it's giving us 2 centimeters, and if we divide this into 10 equal parts, we find that the middle part is going to be the 5th point. right? This last line should be the ninth point. So if you divide this into 10 equal parts, you're going to say the fifth line is going to be somewhere here in the middle. So you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So meaning the specific easting, according to what we've counted, is supposed to be 9. Then you go to the northings, you do the same thing, you divide this into 10 equal parts, you find this one is going to be the first one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You write your 6 there. So this is the 6-figure grid reference. So just to remind you, number one rule when you're finding the 6-figure grid reference, always start with writing the easting. So which is the same number at the bottom, here on top, here on top, and at the bottom you find the same easting. So the first key thing that you should do is take note of the easting, and this grid in which the dip tank is at 35, easting 35. So once you take note of the easting 35 on which this grid is, where the dip tank is, you write your 35 there, then you leave space, you write the northing on which this dip tank is 75. This is the northing 75, you leave space, then you divide this into 9 equal parts, where so after that you do the same for the northings, then you just count the northing according to where the point you're looking for is. So that is how you find the 6-figure grid reference. So going back to our question, which was saying what is the 6-figure grid reference of the dip tank in the left top corner of the map. So the best possible answer is A, 35, 97, 56. Now in the exam, these are questions where you don't need to even spend more than 2 minutes. If you want to be very fast in the exam, what you do is just get the map. You get the map, then you use the options you've been given. Once you get the map, then you use the options that you've been given. So here, you're able to tell to say, for the eastings, if you check the eastings, remember the first two are eastings, then these are northings, right? These two are northings, then the first two are eastings. So what you do is in the exam, if you want to be very fast, you just check the eastings that you've been given for the first two. If you check here, the easting is saying for option C, 75. And then if you check on the map, there is no easting 75 here, meaning question 1, C and D, C and D can never be answered because on the map there is no easting 75. So meaning the best possible answers have to be they have to be between A and B. Then you check easting 35 and easting 36. In easting 35, do you have a dip tank? Yes. In easting 36, do you have a dip tank? No. Meaning the answer is supposed to be A, easting 35, where the dip tank is. So it is quite that simple. You might not even need to go through all this process. You might not even be able to go through all this process. So that is another guidance I would like you to pay particular attention to. Now, I would like us to go to question 2. Find the distance of the main road from the western edge of the map in 3468 to the southern edge in 4063. Now, let me give you, first of all, a simple explanation of how to find distance. Let's take, for instance, this is what you've been given. You have been given this point. This is point A, and you have been given point B in this grid. So we know that the easting on which point A is lying is easting 20. We know that the easting on which point A is lying is easting 20, and the northing on which point A is lying is northing 91. We know that the easting on which point B is lying is 21, and we know that the easting on which point B is lying is 21, and the northing on which point B is lying is 90. Now, we've been given those 2 points. So how do you find the distance between point A and point B? So here, let's take, for instance, this is a stream that is connecting point A to point B. This is a stream that is connecting point A to point B. Then you've been told to find the distance. So what you do is you get a piece of paper, you mark the starting point on the piece of paper. You mark it like that. That is your starting point. Then you're going to be marking at each point where the stream curves. So at this point, you mark, then you hold so that you don't disturb the reading. You hold, where it turns, you also turn. Where it turns, you also turn. You also mark there because it is making a curve there. You hold, then you also turn, then you mark there. Why are we making those markings? Because this is an irregular shape. So you have the distance, this is the first point, and this is the last point. So upon getting those 2 points for the distance, where do you take this? You take this distance to the scale. There is always a scale that is just below the map. So always remember that you have to put the starting point right at 0 and nowhere else. Don't put it at 1, don't put it anywhere else. Always put the starting point at 0 in measuring the distance. So you put the point at 0. So you know that it is from here all the way to here. So this is from 0 to 1. So 1 is somewhere here. So that is where your 1 is, and this is in kilometers. So 1 is somewhere here. Then you have this extra distance. Now, how are you going to tell this extra distance? Is this 1 point what? So what you do with this extra distance is that you take it to these smaller divisions. So these are smaller divisions of finding distance. So what you do is you're going to put it like that. Then you just count. This is 1, 2, 3. So meaning this is 1.3 kilometers, since our scale is in kilometers. So this is the answer. Now let's get to our map. Let's get to our map. Now the question is saying, according to question 2, find the distance of the main road from the western edge of the map in 3468 to the southern edge in 4063. So what you do is you get your map, then you look at the question. It is saying in grid 3468, in grid 3468. So let's get to that grid 3468. This is where 68 is. If you see, right at the edge of the map. So the main road, how is the main road looking like? So according to our key, the main road is supposed to look like this. The main road is supposed to look like this. So this is our main road. So meaning we are talking about this road starting from grid square 68, easting 68. So starting from the grid square, so meaning the main road we are talking about is this. That is in grid square, according to the question, 3468. So this is our 34. This is our 3468. This is our 34. So 34 is here, 68 is here. So we are starting from here right at the edge according to the question. So this is our starting point. So make sure you mark the starting point. So you've marked the starting point there, grid square 3468. Then where are we going? We are going to reach at the southern edge 4063. 4063. So where is 4063? So according to this map, 40 is here. This is easting 40. And where do we have 63? 63 is here. Since 64 is starting in this line, so 63 is here. So it is going all the way to this point. So you have marked the 2 points. You have marked the 2 points. That is from this point to this point. From this point to this point. So how are we going to find the distance from that point to this point? So what you do is just get a piece of paper. In the exam, you might be given a string. You can use a string or a piece of paper. So here, we are using a piece of paper. So what you do is, you are going to mark the starting point on this. You mark, you say, okay, this is where you are going to start from. So you've marked the starting point at that point. So where it curves, you also curve. So you mark even that point. So you mark the starting point. You're also going to mark this point. So you hold so that you don't disturb the reading. You hold all the way to here. You mark. You also hold there. Where it curves, you also curve. You hold. You mark that point. You curve. You mark that point. You mark this point. You hold. You curve. You mark this point. You hold. You curve. You mark this point. So you have marked from this point to this point, according to what the question gave us. So this is the distance, and that is from here to here. So what do we do with this distance that we found? So this distance, what to do with it is you take it to the scale. Remember, there is always a scale at the bottom of the map, and this scale is indicated in kilometers. So you have 1 kilometer here, starting from 0 all the way to 9 kilometers. And this is in meters, these smaller divisions in meters. So what you do is, remember, always you must put it at 0. Always start from 0. So the first point should be at 0. So you have all the way from here up to, this is where we are having our 8. So this is where we are having our 8. So you know that this is where 8 kilometers is. Now, so what do we do with this extra distance? We know that our 8 kilometers is here, but we have this extra distance. So what you do is, with this extra distance, you take it to these smaller divisions. You take it to these smaller divisions. So you start from here, then you just count. This is in meters. This is in meters. You say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you're going to say this is 8.6. Then once you find that this is 8.6 kilometers, you go to your question. Then you find, the answer from here closest to what you found. So the best possible answer on this question is D. The best possible answer on this question is D, 8.7 kilometers. So we go for the closest. See you in our next video as we continue answering map week.